That's right. Welcome in. It is another edition of the East Idaho Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, breaking down the biggest stories in Districts 5 and 6, week in, week out in the great state of Idaho. My name is Brandon Baney. We are joined by our East Idaho expert, Sean Kane, at Sean Kane 182 on X. What's up, Sean?
Just fresh off the slopes of the cross country ski course here in Pocatello up at the Nordic Center. I went with my daughter's 5th grade class, and yeah, I still got it. I can still cross country ski. If anyone at home was wondering, I still have it. I am currently pretty sore, but that's why I'm like in a hat and still my hoodie. But it was like beautiful. It was like 40 degrees. I mean, I probably got sunburnt, but yeah, cross country skiing, Nordic Center and Scout Mountain, Pocatello. It's pretty awesome. They have skis and snowshoes to rent, but that's fun. Not that has a whole lot to do with what we're going to talk about, but I just wanted everyone to know.
Hey, it is an athletic thing that happened in East Idaho. So yeah, it fits the criteria. You did this last year too, didn't you?
We snowshoed last year.
Okay, that's
so when they're in 4th grade, they snowshoe. Then we upgrade to the cross country skiing and help kids put them on and learned how to do it. And the guy, is teaching them, kind of the pizza. Like if you ever downhill ski, do the pizza to stop, and just kind of made me think of when you have to break things down and coach it at that first level. And that's kind of where I was going with this, is just how important it is sometimes when we get to watch all these games and high school kids have played forever. But, at some point you're still kind of breaking down to just the basics and having fun, and you fall, and everyone's going to fall. Right. I fell today. Then one of the instructors fell. Everyone falls, but it's, getting back up and still doing it and having fun. And that's kind of what East Idaho Sports has been doing this winter. There's been some falls, but kind of getting back up and getting into it. And it's getting really into it here with districts.
Yes, district tournament starts. One starts this week. I'll give you a guess as to which one that is, and then the rest start next week. And so next week we'll have brackets to break down for girls district basketball. Real quick to the skiing thing, quick story, and then we'll actually get into East Idaho athletics. One time I've been skiing in my life. One time it was in 7th grade. We took a PE field trip. I'd never skied before. We did it was not great. 10 minutes of loose instruction. Hey, here's what you do. Here's how you stop. See ya. Gotta go, kids. And so I'm at the bunny hill. I go down once, don't stop great, fall on my butt, whatever. Take the rope tow, back up. The second time I'm going down the bunny hill, I don't know what happens. I fall awkwardly. My knee gets twisted. I end up spraining my knee. This was in the winter during the junior high basketball season.
Oh, no.
And I was, I was probably in 7th grade, 5'11", 6 foot maybe, which is tall for a 7th grader. I'm 6'4" now, but so they were counting on me for some height inside, and then I had to miss almost the entire basketball season. And then they said, no more skiing. You're done.
You're out.
That's the one time I've been skied.
You're retired. You're retired from the slopes.
It ruined my 7th grade basketball season. So, well, we have not been ruined. We have been spoiled this basketball season with so much strong play from so many teams in East Idaho, particularly on the girls' side, as we are racing towards the finish line, Sean. We got to start in this high country conference over in Class 4A, where Shelley and Skyline and Blackfoot have all been, nipping at each other all season long. We've featured back-to-back games for Blackfoot on IdahoSports.com, at Shelley last Thursday, and then at Skyline, the Taj McGrizz last night. Let's go back to the Shelley game, Sean. This is a game that you were on the call for IdahoSports.com. You've put together a little highlight compilation. You tell me when you want me to play that, but give me your thoughts of what happened in the game.
Well, I mean, Shelley had taken it to Blackfoot in the first go around, and kind of in the back of your mind, how Shelley had played, you had a feeling like it might happen again. And that's not what happened at all. Blackfoot came out and pretty much was in control the whole game. Marley Piper was phenomenal. Kendall Anderson was amazing. They were just kind of had it in control, and Shelly kind of looked tired and maybe just run down, but you're the number one team for a reason, and we'll see why in the highlights. But Shelly comes away with a sneaky win after pretty much 3/4 of the game, Blackfoot winning, and it was just a furious pace. The game, I think they went to the shot clock twice, and it was just really good. But Brenley Cannon and Mia Williams of Shelley, and there's just a lot of great players. Any team would ask for one of these players. Both teams have multiple people that can get things done. But it was a great game, and a heartbreaker for Blackfoot. And Shelley, when they won, you didn't think like they were 16 or 17-0. You thought they had won like a championship. That's how it felt. It was a playoff atmosphere in the regular season.
Yeah, 58-57, the final. Shelley picks up the win. Here are some of the highlights that you put together from the IdahoSports.com broadcast.
That's only a Cannon all alone for a three-pointer, and just like that,
first lead of the night.
Shelley gets their first lead. 1 second. Half-court shot is good! Stolen. Boston to Anderson, and she's going to go all the way and count the basket. It's good.
Last minute of the game.
She doesn't connect on it. 29 seconds left to go. Blackfoot by 1. Cannon with the ball. Piper on her. Spin, drive, up and in for Cannon.
And then that last shot ended up being the game winner, correct?
Yeah, that was the game winner. Blackfoot had about 14 seconds left, and we couldn't believe that they didn't take a timeout because, they tried to just run it, and when it wasn't there, I thought for sure they would take a timeout, and kind of time just sputtered out, and Marley Piper got off a three-pointer that was well short. But yeah, it was just it was crazy. But, at the start of the clip is Shelley gets their first lead of the game. Brindley Cannon three-pointer just wide open. And then Blackfoot goes down. Anderson hits a half-court shot at the end of the third quarter. And then that last play by Blackfoot putting it up for an and one. And then right after she misses that free throw is the game-winning shot because Blackfoot's unable to put it in. But there was tons of points where you're just like it was just there's more. I could have done more highlights. The thing is too towards the end of that game, Brindley Cannon was playing with 4 fouls. Foul trouble became an issue for her, and she's kind of the presence down low, and we were both kind of surprised that they didn't go inside a little more at the end. They didn't need a 3 to win, but it was a great game. And Blackfoot's a tough team. Anytime you can take Shelley, which is pretty much the unanimous number 1 team in 4A, all 4 quarters, and Shelley's got Brindley Cannon, and that's why they're able to come up with that win. And could have fouled her. A lot of things could have happened, but two good, well-coached teams, and just a lot of firepower.
Yeah, so this happened last year too with Shelley, where they swept Blackfoot twice in the regular season. In fact, they only suffered a loss to Pocatello last year, or excuse me, they split with Blackfoot. They lost the first game, and then let's see, am I looking at the right thing here? Yeah, okay, they won the first game, lost the second, and then they lost at districts as well. So Blackfoot actually went 2-1 against Shelley last year. They and Sandpoint really in the championship were the only teams that were able to solve that Shelley riddle last year. But now the Russets, after falling in the championship last year, you can tell they're focused in, and it's amazing to me, Sean. 2 years ago, I did the Blackfoot Shelley game at Shelley for IdahoSports.com, and at the time, Blackfoot was the team that came in as the big juggernaut. They had Hadley Humphreys inside, and what a presence she was, to the point where Shelley basically said, "We're going to pack it in and dare Blackfoot to shoot from the 3-point line. And if they make enough threes to beat us, then we tip our hats." And that got them into the game because Shelley had come in, maybe a couple of games above 500, something like that. But they hung in until the fourth quarter when some of those outside shots did finally start to fall for Blackfoot. Now, just in 2 years' time, it's shifted, and Shelley is the big bad juggernaut, and it's Blackfoot that is saying, we're going to pack it inside, not because Shelley has a 6'3" post like Hadley Humphreys,
No.
but because Brindley Cannon and Mia Williams are still good at driving to the basket. And hey, we got to shut that down. And if we get beat from the 3-point line, then so be it. And that's what you saw there on that wide open 3 from Cannon. Blackfoot packing it in, trying to stop the penetration.
Yeah, Blackfoot had done a good job of keeping Cannon and Williams, from not doing too much damage in the paint. You can't stop them. They're going to get their points. But I'll tell you, Casey Lang also for Shelley was phenomenal. And if Brindley Cannon didn't hit the game-winning shot, I think Casey Lang would have been the player of the game, because there's a span there in the fourth quarter where she hits a huge three-pointer at the end of the 35 seconds, and then comes back and she scores like 5 points in 10 seconds. And that was huge too. So they have some just great supporting cast members too. But yeah, both teams defensively are very strong, and I think that's what makes it doesn't show up as much because everyone likes the highlights of the shots, but both defense are pretty ferocious and get out and transition very well. But two good teams, but both these teams are good too. But they also, there's someone who wants to spoil the party for both of them, right?
Yeah. So from there, Blackfoot then. So Shelley is now 19-0 overall, 9-0 in the conference. They have one league game left to wrap up their regular season. Blackfoot, following the loss to Shelley, beats Hillcrest last Friday, 57-30. And then last night, Sean, they head to the Taj McGrath to take on Skyline on Skyline's senior night. This was a game that we had last night on IdahoSports.com. First of all, cool moment for Skyline off the tip. Amy Basic is a senior on this year's Skyline team. She suffered a season-ending injury, I believe, during volleyball season. She has not played at all this basketball season, and she's 6'2", great high jumper in track, and so she's definitely somebody Skyline was counting on having this year, and they've adjusted without her. But she was announced as a starter for last night's game. She was out on the court for the opening tip-off. Blackfoot kind of recognized what was happening here. They didn't really go for the jump ball. They let Skyline just tip it to Amy Basic. They call timeout, stop the game. She gets her recognition. I just thought it was a cool moment for Amy Basic of Skyline, who wasn't able to play this year at all, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. That's and that's kind of been the MO of Skyline. They've had some players that have just gotten hurt in the course of, and for their basketball team, and that's just so tough. But it's nice that they're able to get those moments where you can recognize the hard work they've done throughout the years on that senior night.
Yeah, we remember 2 years ago at State where Skyline upset Blackfoot at the opening round at State, remember? And Skyline was the Cinderella, got all the way to the championship, and late in the championship game, they lost, but they called the timeout and they brought in Maddie Olson off the bench, who wasn't able to play that entire season. And of course, she is at Montana State now playing basketball. So yeah, Skyline takes care of their players. They do such a good job. Hey, we got Joel Richardson in the chat here.
He was there.
Yeah, Joel was there last night. Beautiful moment. Tim and I even got a bit emotional. Yeah, Tim Belknap and Joel were on the call for that game last night. You guys did a great job, by the way, Joel. Keep up the good work. Now Joel gets to go back to Shelley Thursday night for Skyline and Shelley, the rematch. Before we get to that, Skyline started a little slow against Blackfoot, kind of like Shelley did. Kaisa Shippen on her senior night leaves with an injury early. It was her birthday as well, Sean, so that's never a way you want to go. She returns to the game, though, leads the team in the second half in scoring, ends up being the IdahoSports.com player of the game. So yeah, Skyline pulls off the come-from-behind victory, 54-48. That is 2 losses in 3 games for Blackfoot by a combined total of 7 points.
Yeah, and I believe Shippen had like 14 points in the third quarter or something, 12 or 14 points just in that quarter coming back. So that's just a phenomenal effort. And yeah, that game was, until about the last few minutes, it was pretty much back and forth 1-point battle. And Skyline found a way to kind of just get enough of a lead to kind of finish that out. But yeah, Skyline Shelley rematch should be good.
We also have in the chat here, Sean, Tim Belknap,
Wow.
the other half of the broadcast duo from last night. He says Joel was crying. This reminds me of Tommy. Well, I'm not crying. You're crying.
I'll bring the tissues the next time we work together, Joel. Don't worry.
Right. Okay, so now we have this rematch. It's Skyline at Shelley Thursday night on IdahoSports.com. Joel Richardson is going to be on the call. He says, can't wait. And honestly, neither can I, because these two teams mirror each other so well. Now, the first time they played, Shelley won 73-59, but you consider what they've done to a lot of other really good teams
That's
this year.
Score for Shelley. That's what you're getting at. Yeah, they've in doing the work on the game for the Blackfoot Shelley game, Shelley scored 1,000 something points and only given up 500. So they've almost doubled everyone they played. So that doesn't sound like a close score, but for what Shelley's done this year, that's a pretty close score. I think the other close score was against Pocatello way early in the season.
Yep. So, I mean, what does Skyline have to do to get the win here? I feel like they have an advantage, not in height down low, but Shea Shippen can bully, Shelley, whoever Shelley decides to guard her with on the block. And she will, I think, be able to find ways to score inside. This may come down to, can Skyline hit enough from the perimeter?
Yeah, and that's I think what Blackfoot did well is they were able to hit a lot of 3-pointers. Like they were able to kind of come away with some 3-pointers and keep that lead. And I think what Blackfoot did too was good. And I think Shelley might have to do this, is you really kind of have to almost outpace Shelley, because Shelley doesn't slow down. But if you keep them going, get some of those starters a little tired. I don't know if they ever get tired, but if you can keep up pace with them and not get down early, I think that's the key. If you let Shelley get ahead of you early, they're going to relax and the ball's going to start flying in. But you got to kind of keep that pace and not get down early. And I think they'd be fine. But I think Skyline has a lot of good counterparts to what Shelley does. And we know Shea Shippen, Brindley Cannon, they're all going to get, their 20 points. And I think it's about making sure other role players don't get too involved and get a hot hand. If it might be who else gets the hot hand, like a Casey Lang or someone like that could be the huge difference in that game.
Yep. And for Skyline, a win here would just give them some confidence going into districts. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think the way I understand the High Country Conference is, if Skyline beats Shelley, they would split the regular season title, right? They'd both be 9-1. They will have both beaten each other. How do we figure out who's the 1 seed and who's the 2? I believe you start looking at other teams in the district. Well, they beat everybody else. And then I think, I think from there it goes to common opponents, and they have played some of the same 5A schools like Madison and Thunder Ridge. And the difference there, of course, is that, okay. So this is what it used to be. And then I'll explain what it is. We've got our guys in the chat. Keeping me honest here.
Okay.
What it used to be was then they would start looking at the non-conference opponents and who you played. And obviously Shelley would have the advantage there. They haven't lost to anybody yet this year. Whereas Skyline has lost a couple, they've lost to Madison and things like that. Okay. Joel says, per Skyline coach Ty Keck, they'd go to the coin flip. And that's what Tim says, coin toss.
Wow.
That's huge, because whoever can finish 1 and stay away from Blackfoot on the other side of the bracket, that's a huge built-in advantage.
Yeah, I mean, that's gigantic. So that game's super important. I think maybe more kind of for Shelley. I think Shelley, if they can just win it out, then you're going to put Skyline and Blackfoot on that same half, and I think you feel really good that way. I think you feel really good. And then for Skyline, man, just the finish out the season, that would be a huge confidence, right? Beating Blackfoot and then beating Shelley to finish out regular season. That's you're putting yourself in the driver's seat.
Yep, for sure. Joel says, I think the other stuff still matters, but both teams are equal there. So coin toss it is. Yes. Okay. Here's my can we get, if there is a coin toss, Sean, Tim, and Joel together to broadcast the coin flip on IdahoSports.com? What do you guys think?
I mean, yeah, I'm sure we need 3 of us.
I think so. It's an important event. We need our best there representing. So, okay, that'll be very interesting for sure. Tim says he's in. Okay, there we go. All right, let's talk. Boy, we have spent 20 minutes talking about the High Country Conference. But
It's exciting. I mean, it has been nothing short of exciting for the last couple of years. So totally well worth it.
Yep. And Joel says he's in too. So there we go. All right. Okay, let's go to 3A girls hoops. Let's talk about this Mountain Rivers Conference where Teton had been undefeated and the number 1 ranked team in the media poll and the number 1 ranked team in the coaches poll and looked really good until son of a gun, those Sugar Salem Diggers go to Teton last Friday and get out of there with a 10-point win, 65-55. Are you more surprised by Teton now 18-1 overall, 2-1 in the league, or by Sugar Salem 13-6 overall, but 1-2 in conference play with losses already to South Fremont and Teton?
I mean, this is something we've talked about. You've got 3 teams that are going to have outstanding records any way you slice it, but you only have 3 teams in your conference. So I would have to say I'm kind of surprised that Sugar Salem beat Teton. Just Sugar Salem's a really young team, but I think I talked about it a little bit, but sometimes you're just young and you just don't really think about it. They don't have anything to go, oh, what we did last year, or you know what I mean? You've got a younger team. They just went and did their business. And we just know Sugar Salem's built differently when it comes to these kind of games against Teton. It's always this same kind of like battle. So I don't know if I'm surprised, but you're just like, wow. I mean, if you said, well, who's going to win this game, you would have said Teton, I think, just based on what's happened so far. But are you surprised Sugar won? I'm not.
I am, because they had just played 9 days prior and Teton won by 18 at Sugar. So Crystal Daly is a great coach, obviously, and this team is getting better with more games under their belt, but and now you've got this showdown between Sugar and South Fremont at South Fremont to wrap up the season this Friday night, Sean. And all of a sudden the winner of that potentially could get the 2 seed and get to host that first round of districts, which is huge.
Yeah, so that'll be a difference maker who can finish that out.
Oh my gosh. I'm telling you, Sugar Salem is like the bad guy in a horror movie. If you do not kill and eliminate, I'm not saying kill in a literal sense, but if you don't take care of them,
neutralize the threat.
Yes, you have to neutralize the threat. It doesn't matter. Oh my gosh.
They're a heel. In wrestling, it's the heel, right? The bad guy, but everyone loves them. That's kind of Sugar Salem's kind of the heel of that conference.
Here come the Diggers once again. Oh my goodness. All right, 2A, crazy stuff going on. North Fremont kind of in control of the Nuclear Conference in girls hoops, 13-6 overall, 6-0 in league play. But I want to go to District 5, the Southeast Idaho Conference, where Soda Springs is now 5-1 in conference play. Malad is 5-2. Bear Lake is 4-2. Now, when you look at overall records, you go, oh yeah, Malad's good. They're 16-3, and Bear Lake's good. They're 15-3, and boy, Soda's 8-11. What's the deal? I don't know how many times I can say it on this show or anywhere else. Soda Springs, when I use the eye test, to me, Soda Springs is the best team in this district and has been for the last several years. They schedule aggressively, and because of that, they always come in with, a less than stellar overall record, but you have to look at who they're playing and you have to look at, what they're actually doing on the floor. And to me, Soda is the favorite down the stretch.
Yeah. I mean, you just look at Soda's season, the start of their season. They played Preston 4A, they played Grace, they played Skyview, Utah, and then Snake River. Like that's got to be probably 4 hardest schedule starting maybe anywhere. I don't know if I've seen one starter. Now Preston's a 4A team, not as good as they have been, but still it's a bigger team. It's a 4A team. Grace is always solid. Skyview, Utah is usually pretty good. And we know Snake River's good, and they were definitely good at the start of the season. So yeah, they started off with, 1-3, but those are tough opponents. So I couldn't agree with you more that overall schedule isn't the biggest thing to look at.
It drives me nuts in this media poll that I vote in every week. Nobody is, it's all, and don't get me wrong, Malad and Bear Lake are good too. But to me, how is Soda Springs not ranked? I keep voting them every week in my top 5, and they never make it into the actual poll. It's frustrating. I mean, and you're like, well, Soda's 3-1 in league. Their lone loss came by 2 points to Malad. I mean, otherwise you're talking about an undefeated team in conference. I guess ultimately it'll be decided on the floor, right? I mean,
yeah.
Soda did just sweep Bear Lake for the season. They won 55-43 back in December. They won the rematch by 6, 48-42 last Thursday. They will get Malad tonight, Sean. We're recording this Wednesday, January 24th. They will host Malad tonight for the conference title, essentially is what this will boil down to.
Yeah, so I mean, if they win tonight, that's wrapped up. You can put that one to bed.
Meanwhile, interim coach Matt Groening taking over. Josh Zentner, who was in his second season leading this Cardinals program, abruptly resigns. Shout out to the Idaho State Journal for having the story, and Brandon Walton for writing a good story there. This is kind of just came out of nowhere. Josh Zentner abruptly resigns. They kind of bring Matt Groening, who's been an assistant for a really long time. And now they're on their third coach in like 3 years at Soda.
Yeah. The coaching dilemmas in Soda Springs have not been great, right? There's just not been good press out of what's come out of there, right? There just hasn't been some positive things. And you had him in there. It's the second year, and you'd like to feel like they're kind of on the right direction, but they've just had it's just too bad. You kind of feel bad for the players that they can't get the consistency they need.
Yeah, and of course Wade Schoeneveld, head coach there forever, and he just did disgusting, heinous things.
Yeah.
And this kind of went under the radar, but in November he was sentenced to 25 years. A term of 10 to 25 years, I should say, 10 to 25 years, for basically having an improper sexual relationship with one of his players, which is just, I can't even imagine somebody in a coaching and teaching position doing that. It's just a total violation. And anyways, that's old news, but they are trying to come out of this thing. And yet at the same time, with all this turbulence, they just keep on winning too. I mean, so it's credit to those girls for blocking out the noise and just focusing on the game and
been able to do it for, almost like generational, like Soda Springs girls basketball has been good. No matter how bad the storm is, that ship still makes it to port. So, to the community, you're better than any problems that you have when you come together and work together. So that's the best part of that.
Yep, for sure. All right, last stop on our girls basketball tour, 1AD2 Rocky Mountain Conference. This thing is just about wrapped up, Sean. This is the one district that actually starts their postseason this week. They'll have a couple of play-in games, and then the tournament proper will get started next week along with everybody else. But it is Mackey in the driver's seat. They beat Rockland last night. This was a showdown of undefeated teams. The winner of this was going to walk out with first place, and Mackey wins at home pretty convincingly, 62-43 the final. I guess the coaches got it right in our preseason coaches poll when they picked the Miners as the league favorite. Remember, that poll was all over the place.
Yeah.
But Mackey was the team that was picked number one in the preseason poll, and here they are making everybody look smart.
Yeah, and I was a little surprised by that score, 62-43 with that win, but nice job by Mackey, and it looks like they'll probably get that one seed in that tournament, and that Rocky Mountain Conference is a real tournament.
It is. Now here's the caveat: Mackey's last game is against Grace Lutheran, and the Royals are 5-2, so it's not like they're walking into an easy time in their regular season finale. And meanwhile, for Rockland, they're 6-1. Well, they've got to finish up with a road game at Ledor, who's 5-1. So really this top four, Mackey, Rockland, Ledore, Grace Lutheran, throw them in a hat and shake it up, and who knows?
Yeah. And, they're going to still play maybe 1 to 2 more times in the conference bracket. So who knows?
Yes. I will say this is a league this year, Sean, that gets 2.5 bids to state.
Okay.
So whoever takes third at districts will have a chance to get in. They will have to play, basically, they're going to have to play Clark Fork. That'll be the champion from up here in District 1. Same thing happened in volleyball this year. And we talked about how many good teams there were in volleyball also this year, where Rockland actually took third, had to go to the play-in match against Clark Fork again, won that to get to state. So we could easily see 3 teams from the Rocky Mountain Conference at state for girls basketball.
Yeah, which I think would be great and well-deserved. So hopefully that happens.
Definitely. All right. This is the East Idaho Prepcast presented by No Vape Idaho. We'll be back to talk boys hoops right after this break.
It's not like I'm doing drugs.
Nicotine can negatively impact the developing brain and make it more susceptible to other addictive substances. Students that vape are 3 times more likely to start smoking weed. And kids who share vapes can unknowingly inhale other drugs like THC, meth, or fentanyl, causing permanent lung damage, overdose, and even death. Be smart, don't start.
This is the East Idaho Prepcast presented by No Vape Idaho here on IdahoSports.com. Sean, did you know that vaping can increase the risk of lung infections? That just sounds like a bad time.
Considering we do a lot of talking, that sounds terrible. Absolutely terrible. And I want no part of it.
And everyone might think, hey, what's the big deal? A lung infection. I'll fight that off on a couple of days. With COVID-19 kind of now, I think it changed everybody's breathing system a little bit. And what was once something minor and routine can develop into something a little more serious. So like in this post-COVID world, I wouldn't even pick up a vape pen. Like why weaken your lungs even more?
And and I did cross country skiing, and my lungs aren't great to begin with.
Yeah.
So let's be honest, I don't need any more handicaps.
Yes. If you want more tips and info about vaping, you can go to your favorite web browser, type in No Vape Idaho. That's no with a K, KNOW, No Vape Idaho, and find out more there. Let's move on to boys basketball, Sean. We're also going to start in the 4A High Country Conference, where Hillcrest remains on top. And really, to me, in 4A basketball, there's kind of this big four from East Idaho, right? It's Hillcrest, it's Preston, it's Pocatello, and Blackfoot has now entered the chat as well. Now, this is the danger of just looking at overall records, right? Because when you look at Blackfoot, you'll see that they've, taken a couple of losses along the way this year. Blackfoot comes in with an overall record of 5-10, but man, they're 3-2 in the league. They just pushed a really good Preston team and fell in overtime, 69-65. They lost to Preston the first time by only 9. So that's a team that's getting better, in my opinion. And when they played Pocatello, they only lost by 10. So I think people need to start paying attention to what's going on at Blackfoot.
Yeah, and if you remember Blackfoot, we talked about them kind of a lot in the start of the season. They went and played Capital and Lewiston and Bora, and they lost the Capital, they lost Lewiston, they beat Bora, but they started with a strong schedule, and they've played some pretty tough opponents pretty well. And in watching that Preston game, Blackfoot was pretty much in control of that game all the way until the end, where Preston was able to just kind of be Preston. And be smart with the ball towards the end and come away with a win. But Blackfoot had that game in the grasp of their hands, which would have been a huge shocker, I think, to the ranking systems of whatever ranking we use to everyone. But good team. And again, that conference is crazy too. Like, you both have Blackfoot and Skyline at 3-2 and Shelley at 2-3. So with the last few games, that could change up a little bit too.
Yeah, and that was another thing that was driving me nuts in these polls that I vote in or put together. We still had last week Pocatello ranked ahead of Preston, even though Preston had beaten Pocatello. I'm like, guys, come on, let's get this figured out. Rematch tonight or Thursday night, I think. I got to double check which day it is. Rematch. Oh yeah, tonight in Hillcrest. Preston at Hillcrest. Now, when these teams played, it was the season opener. Hillcrest won by 3, 56-53. The caveat being they were playing without their best post, Isaac Davis, and their best guard, Ike Sutton. Both those guys back now. What do we think happens in this rematch?
I mean, I think you've seen Preston enough now that I feel like they're just a tough, hard team. When you have 5 players out there that can score, for me, it's going to be, can they handle the underneath the basket? Because where Preston had trouble with Pocatello was Ontiveros down low had kind of a big game against Preston. And so will Preston be able to, handle Isaac Davis, which is, I would say, definitely more physical than Ontiveros down low. And, if Hillcrest uses that to their advantage, I think it'll be very tough for Preston. But, Cruz Harris of Preston has done well underneath. And if he can continue to do that and they can kind of play that team defense Preston's been playing really, really good at, double teaming when they need to and things like that, it could be a close game. But I think this is kind of the game where we see if Hillcrest is what we think they are. And I think they know that too. And I don't think you want them to know that. I think Hillcrest is going to come out with something to prove kind of to the state polls. That's what I kind of think. So I kind of think Hillcrest might win this game.
And we mentioned coming in Hillcrest on the season. Again, you can't just look at the records because they're 9-6. All 6 of those losses have come to non-Idaho teams. So they're undefeated against the state of Idaho. Just saying. They are the favorites going back to state this year. Again, 2A. Let's go 2A hoops. Nuclear Conference. North Fremont 10-2 overall. They're 3-0 in league play. Firth right on their heels at 3-1. And Ryrie. How about Ryrie? They're 2-1. Ryrie just picked up a non-conference win over Sugar Salem by 2, 53-51. And then they lost last night to Teton by a single point, 52-53. So those are 2 really good 3A programs. I don't know. Here comes Ryrie. They're going to play North Fremont twice still, starting tomorrow night at home against North Fremont. And then they play Firth one more time. Now, Firth beat them pretty handily the first time out. So to me, we'll see how Ryrie does against North Fremont. But to me, I'm still looking at the Huskies and I'm still looking at the Cougars. These teams met already once this season. 10-point win for North Fremont. The rematch will come up next Friday, February 2nd. But same old, right? North Fremont and Firth.
Yeah, that kind of seems to be the, a 2-horse race right there. But Ryrie definitely making a case. But Firth has been looking really, really well too. But I don't know if you can really bet against a North Fremont at this point.
And then there's the Southeast Idaho Conference, District 5. West Side, 2-1. Bear Lake, 2-1. Soda, 2-1. Aberdeen, 1-1. What do we make of this conference here, Sean?
Oh man, I don't know. I feel like the last time we talked about this conference, I was really big on Bear Lake, and now I don't know what to think because they're all 2-1. West Side's good. We know the players West Side has. I don't know. I think West Side got a nice win over Teton, 50-47, a 3-point win over Teton, but then goes and loses to Soda Springs 44-57. So I don't know. What does it tell me? You're the expert.
Well, I mean, based on the results, I would say Bear Lake has been kind of the most consistent team. Bear Lake, we mentioned 2-1 in conference play. They have defeated Soda Springs by 8, and they lost to West Side only by 5, 72-67. West Side, we mentioned they were in the driver's seat until they lost to Soda Springs last Friday. And that game was like a 14-point margin. So, 57-44. And then you look at Soda Springs, and Soda was right there against Bear Lake. They've beaten Westside. I don't know. I still, this is going to sound weird. I'm with you. I still kind of lean Bear Lake in this whole deal.
Yeah, I felt like Bear Lake was kind of the team for this conference at the start, and but I guess we'll just have to see. Bear Lake still has to play Westside again and Soda, so there's two more pretty important games conference wise coming up.
And Aberdeen is kind of the wild card here because they have played twice is all. They've beaten Malad, which is in last place, and they lost to Westside, which that was back in January, a couple weeks ago. They lost 71-56, but they still play Soda Springs twice. They play Bear Lake twice, and they play Westside one more time. And how about this stretch to close out the season? 3 home games in a row for Aberdeen. Westside, Bear Lake, Soda Springs, all over the last, 4 days of the season. That could decide the race right there, how Aberdeen performs on its home floor.
Yeah, and they're just a couple days apart. It's Friday, Monday, Tuesday. That's a lot of games at the tail end.
Yeah, it's crazy. We've got Michelle Barger. She's the head girls basketball coach from Grangeville, Sean. She says she thinks Soda's going to be in there. Okay. I'll keep an eye on it. I mean, Soda does have the momentum, right? They did just beat Westside.
2 wins. Yeah.
I mean, boy, this is going to be a fun race to watch down the stretch. And I think the success of the Soda girls pushes the Soda boys a little bit too, right?
Yeah, that's definitely, you kind of get that, they each go and watch each other's games and support each other and things like that. If, you don't want to be the guys on the not getting the wins, right? you want to match what that other team's doing, vice versa. So maybe that will be, Soda Springs too kind of seems to be a little stronger here at the end, but I'm going to still kind of lean towards Bear Lake just because that's what I said to start with, but I'm not 100%. I'm not putting down any money.
You're not confident with that. No. This is going to be a really fun race. We're going to, as we got, we've got a little more runway for boys basketball, right? For girls basketball, we've got pretty much 1 or 2 games left on the schedule, and then districts will start next week. Boys basketball, there's still a little runway, still some races to be decided. So, it's going to be fun to watch it all play out as the season goes along. All right, Sean, before we get out of here, I know you wanted to talk a little wrestling. Tiger Grizz did take place this past weekend, co-hosted by Skyline and Idaho Falls. Brought a lot of out-of-state wrestling competition to the city of Idaho Falls, but we had some good breakthrough performances from some East Idaho grapplers as well.
Yeah. It was pretty neat to see Kyler Scott of Century Girls take first at 114. I thought that was kind of cool. I'm getting used to reading these wrestling scores now because you guys on the mat chat, and it's been real interesting just how they have the girls in there too, right? Just in with the boys, and it's pretty interesting, and so that was pretty neat. You also had Kayla Vale of Bonneville girls getting the 120. I mean, there was a ton of East Idaho champions that I saw. You had, DJ Needler of Idaho Falls at 145 was first place. Levi Belknap of Snake River, he's been talked about before. He took first place as well. And then the big thing was Coulter Burton of Century got 200 wins, right? And I think you guys mentioned that on the mat chat. But 200 wins, we have a lot of we bring it up when you get 100. So I didn't even know that was possible until I saw that. So that's something new to me.
Yeah, it's been a pretty good career for Coulter Burton. First at American Falls, now at Century, crossing 200. Crew Searle from Skyline crossed 100. Wins this past week. Tucker Bowen from Soda Springs crossed 150 career wins. So we're knocking them over. Other champs to highlight, Mac Mager of Blackfoot won at 126. Of course, Coulter Burton won at 138. You had Riker Fulmer from Teton took first place at 170 as well on the boys' side. And then in the team race, it was won by a Utah school, West Lake High. And then Meridian, Big Bad Meridian took second. The highest placing team was Madison. Madison quietly is putting together a pretty good wrestling program there. So, yeah.
Congratulations to all them.
Yes.
Madison. Yeah. Madison is always has a good numbers and does kind of well at wrestling. And maybe we don't hit on them enough, and that's something we'll have to look at. But yeah, they do quietly always do a good job and compete well at these tournaments. So congratulations to Madison.
Yep. It is an exciting time to be a wrestler or a basketball athlete in the great state of Idaho as the winter sports season we're entering the last month here. We're getting it to the home stretch. Next week, Sean, we'll break out the brackets. That's right. We will go through all of the district tournament brackets, outline who we think might advance, look at potential trap games, trap door falls, all that good stuff. You ready for it?
Yeah. And the play-in games that I won't know about, and you'll have to tell me. So
yes. Well, I can't tell you who's in them because there is still a night of regular season basketball in the Rocky Mountain Conference, and depending on who wins or loses, I think I can tell you. I think American Heritage is their new team this year. They're playing varsity girls basketball and boys basketball for the first time. I think they're automatically the 10 seed because they didn't play everybody in the conference, right? They're kind of easing themselves in. I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think other than that, we still got it. But 10 will play 7, 9 will play 8, and then we'll have the traditional 8-team bracket from there. So,
yeah, I was talking more about when they get to the end and they have to go play the play-in games.
Oh, you're talking about state play-in.
Yeah, like some conferences you take second, and you have to play 2 play-in, like all that stuff. We're going to need your help on that. So
yes, I will have all that info for you, and we will have all of the girls' district brackets, of course, up on our website as well at IdahoSports.com. I thought you were talking about districts, the Rocky Mountain, because there's play-in games for that tournament this week. So.
Yeah, that does make sense, and I remember that now. But yeah, I was getting too far ahead of myself.
No, you're good. I like it. So, all right, big thanks to everybody that tuned in to watch the IdahoSports.com East Idaho Prepcast. Of course, you can always listen to this podcast as well. On the IdahoSports.com homepage, there's a little drop-down menu that says Prepcasts. You click on that, East Idaho Prepcast, and you can listen to it there. Also, wherever you download and subscribe to your podcasts. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. For Sean Kane, I'm Brandon Baney. We'll see you next time on IdahoSports.com.